We got some new friends, don't we? Here, I'll pan over a little bit. You can see there's a couple other things here. So we'll have some different backgrounds here for this year. So, everybody, welcome back. It's the now 2025 Oscars at a Glance. I'm shooting this late August here. And we'll have 3 different videos to kind of kick off this season. This year's going to be a little different for me. I'll start with this. I'll start with why I'm shooting this now, and why I'll have a couple other videos shot here late. Probably one more this week, one more next week, because my personal schedule is going to get pretty busy here in the coming weeks. First off, I'm going to say that this should be uploaded, by the way, when we get to September, so that should be fine. All 3 of these should be uploaded by the time we get to September, but the week of Labor Day, going into that weekend, I actually have a cousin's wedding that I'm going to. So I'll be out of commission for that whole Friday to Sunday stretch. And, because normally around Labor Day, and the weekend after, that's when, you get your Telluride. Venice is usually wrapping up around that time, or, has just started, if it's very late August when they start it. And then also, you'll have TIFF, of course, arguably the biggest film festival in the fall season, at least, the fall lineup. That'll start there around that time. While a lot of that is going on, I'm actually going to be out of the country. I am going on a Europe trip here in a few weeks. It'll actually be the week of... I gotta almost have this stuff memorized, I think. The 13th is when I leave. I will actually land in London on the 14th, and I will leave from Paris on the 23rd, I believe. 23rd or 24th. Now I'm questioning it, but I believe it's the 23rd. And I'll be back in the States, I guess officially on the 23rd, but I don't know, I'll be pretty jet lagged, so I won't have much to say there. But yeah, I'm going to be visiting a whole bunch of countries. It's a 10-day trip, 7 different countries. The beginning and the end of the trip is mostly going to be in one country. The first 3 days are in London, last 3 days are in Dijon, and then later on into Paris. But we've got stuff in Brussels, we've got stuff in Frankfurt, a day in Italy and stuff. So I'm going to be seeing a whole bunch of stuff there in September. This is, for me, possibly a once-in-a-lifetime trip that I might not get the chance to do again, at least not for several years. So I looked at it. I could have done it over this summer here. It would have been a real rush. It would have been okay, I would have booked the trip in March or something, and it would have been in May. It's a pretty quick turnaround, especially somebody like me who's never been in an international country before. So, I've got my visa and all that stuff, all that stuff, the passport and everything's all taken care of. But I'm going to be out of the country while a lot of the preliminary Oscar stuff is starting. So I'm actually... Because of that, I'm not going to be able to do a full preview of Venice, a preview of Telluride, a preview of TIFF. So we're basically, by the time I get back, TIFF I think will be over. If not, it'll be on the very last days of TIFF. So we'll basically, when I get back, it'll be, we'll get the stuff, these videos again are going to upload in early September. And then I will pretty much be silent there for the whole rest of the month. And we will come back toward the end of September there, somewhere in the last week or so after I get back. And we'll kind of recap what happened at the festivals, what hit, what did not hit, and stuff like that. Anyways, so that being said, I'm busy with that. And... yeah, I guess I'll kind of break down, because this first video is just going to be about stuff that's already out, and then I'll talk a little bit. I'll actually start here once we get into the Oscar stuff. I'll start with some of the reactions from stuff we saw out of Cannes, because it's just something. It's like every year we get something out of Cannes that ends up either in the director race or ends up in a Best Picture category or something. We can go back to quite a few examples here in the last few years, and yeah, I think definitely there's one in there for sure that I believe is absolutely going to be in the race. So, yeah, we'll get to it here. But really quick, just to kind of, ease our way back into the Oscar conversation. I know it's for me, it has felt like we've been away for a little bit. Oppenheimer winning its big Oscars and stuff, and Poor Things kind of surprising us that night. That it feels like a memory. It's not like a huge, like, distant memory, or anything, but it's like it feels like it's been a little while. So I know we've seen a lot happen this year. We've seen, for the first time in nearly 60 years, we've seen a presidential candidate decide they're not going to run for re-election. We've seen the return of some of the best, maybe not best. We've seen a return of one of the most iconic duos of the 90s, Beavis and Butthead, on Saturday Night Live. And I think everybody saw that and laughed at it. We've seen arguably a return for, movie-wise, perhaps a return to form for the Marvel Cinematic Universe with a major hit in Deadpool and Wolverine and a whole bunch of news coming out of Comic-Con that makes us say, ooh, is Marvel getting back on track for the first time in a couple of years? We'll see. I don't know what else has happened. I feel like a lot's happened in the few months here between, but yeah. Anyhow, as far as, I think we'll get into the movie discussion now here finally. As far as this stuff goes, though, again, we'll start with Cannes, and this first video, we're just going to talk about stuff that either I've seen or stuff that's already come out that I think has at least something of a chance of getting into the Oscar discussion. Not necessarily, slam dunks for, oh yeah, this is getting this, and this. Obviously, it's very, very, very early. This is like on election night trying to predict who would win a state based off the first 1% of election returns. It's just you're going to hit like one every 40 odd states, it's just some of them are easy, like last year with Oppenheimer and Barbie, we knew those two were going to be strong contenders. Some of us, that had seen Past Lives or that, saw that was getting good reaction out of Sundance, thought that one had a good solid chance at ending up with a few nominations, possibly playing in some bigger categories and stuff. We get stuff like that sometimes, but in this case, I think we're really, outside of maybe one or two examples, we're really going to rely on stuff coming out here in the fall slate, which, some years people would argue, okay, that puts more pressure on the fall slate to, come up and be strong and everything, and most of the time it'll come through and we get some really good films, but yeah. Anyhow, so that'll be this first video here. The second video will be stuff coming out. That'll be like, okay, anything from September to December, stuff that's coming out that we think has, again, something of a chance, or your major, like, drop the mic, like this is, your big contender for the studio or maybe for the director or so on. And then the third video, because again, these can run so long in these preliminary videos, the third video will be my earliest predictions. It'll be my first thoughts on who could win a category or potentially who's going to play in certain categories. So, all right. And I'll go ahead, I'll recap again. It'll be mostly like, the films here, but I'll also, if I've seen the film, I'll say a few words about it too, just because I know everybody loves that. Let's see. So I guess Palme d'Or, the Palme d'Or winner here at Cannes was Anora, which is a new film from Sean Baker. It's basically about arguably a gold mining type character who's like a stripper who ends up marrying somebody who's very, very wealthy of Russian descent. And I did see the preview for this. I'm trying to remember what I saw it in front of. Was it Longlegs? Maybe Longlegs. I'm trying to remember it because it's a neon release. And it just the first preview and stuff, I'm like, okay, I don't necessarily look at it like, as like a, instantly like a top 5 most anticipated film of the year or anything for me. But I think it looks solid. I think it looks like it's got a good shot at landing like screenplay, possibly director, best actress, maybe film editing, stuff like that. I think it looks really solid. The reviews on it are really, really high. 96%. Average rating is 8.7 out of 10 last time seeing of it here. Again, one Palme d'Or. Again, usually your Palme d'Or winner or someone, that did really well at Cannes usually gets a notice of some kind at the Oscars here. Really quick, looking at the last few years, Anatomy of a Fall was our Palme d'Or winner here last year. Of course, that ended up getting a good sweep of nominations and stuff there. You also had Zone of Interest was here as well, right? Or am I dreaming that? No, Zone of Interest was here. May December was here, which didn't end up getting nominated for anything, but that had some clout to it and everything. And of course, yep, Zone of Interest came back and won a couple Oscars. In 2022, we had Triangle of Sadness, which really surprised us for its picture and director nominations. That was the Palme d'Or winner. Otherwise, we had EO, which I think got a foreign language film category, or international film category, I should say. Otherwise, I don't know. I'm trying to think here. I don't think anything else is standing out from that year. 2021 Titane didn't go extremely far in the Oscar race, but we still had Drive My Car, though, and Drive My Car ended up getting, again, a director and a picture nomination. And then you go back to 2019 with Parasite, and yeah, that's kind of all she wrote. As far as some other contenders here from Cannes, just really quick, the ones that could show up, I'm interested to see what happens with The Apprentice, which is Sebastian Stan's portrayal of an 80s version of Trump. This will be interesting. It really sounds like, though, Sebastian Stan's going to have an other film out there that'll he'll potentially play in for like Best Actor and stuff. So I don't know if that one's necessarily going to be like the main course or whatever for everything. Also, I don't think it's gotten picked up for U.S. release. I've seen it's picked up for international release in October, but we'll see. Emilia Perez also made a splash at Cannes. Jacques Audiard, I think, is how I've heard the director's name pronounced. He did a couple other things, didn't he? A Prophet. Yeah, A Prophet was one he got a bunch of nods for and stuff. Was nominated for international film. He then did Rust and Bone. Sisters Brothers, which I actually saw back in the day, not too long after it came out, and that one was memorable enough, I guess. Not like a great film by any stretch, but yeah, he's been around the block and everything as a director. But this one, you've got like Selena Gomez, you've got Zoe Saldana, a couple other potential players there for some acting prizes and stuff, and it sounded like overall, I think it won the ensemble won for Best Actress. That's how it went down. That's right. So. Yeah, that one, I don't know. I think that one is one we'll talk about later on. I'll just say that. Let's see. Then we have Kinds of Kindness from Yorgos Lanthimos. I believe premiered there. This one I actually saw in the theater, and it was something. I didn't like it as much as Poor Things. I'll tell you what, though. What really, Jesse Plemons was amazing in this, especially because it's without spoiling everything in it, it's basically like you get three different stories that are kind of ever so slightly loosely connected, and you kind of, the same actors will appear, but they'll be totally different roles and stuff. Plemons, the way he plugs into each character, and each one is kind of different enough from the last one, he came out of that, I thought, and really was giving, I would say, his best performance to date out of everything I've seen from him. And I haven't seen like his entire filmography or anything, but he was really great in it. Emma Stone, of course, still really, really good. And I'm kind of glad that Yorgos comes off of Poor Things, which is this more, kind of hyped up thing and everything. Now he does something that's, technically bigger, but, lengthwise and stuff for film. But it's a smaller, more intimate story and stuff. And it's, I think it's a good follow-up to something like Poor Things. I don't think you need to go, and try to top Poor Things. I think that was a good decision by Yorgos on his part. But overall, I felt like, for me, the second story was the most interesting. It was also at times, I'll be dead honest, it was at times nauseating, though. There were a couple parts where I was really there was some gross stuff happening in that second story. That really looked kind of realistic at times. And I was like, oh, I don't know. But that one I thought had the most fascinating story. The first one, even though I thought Jesse Plemons, there's a part in the second one where he's trying to explain what's going on to someone. That just summed up, I was like, yeah, he's awesome in this. But his character in the first one, too, I thought was kind of interesting. Also, you get the weirdest rendition of How Deep Is Your Love by the Bee Gees ever in the first little thing. The third one was interesting. Emma Stone gets her due in the third one. She's kind of basically the main character. Jesse Plemons is basically just a supporting role in that one. But, the third one had some interesting stuff in it as well. I don't know. Overall, I liked it. It's not necessarily one I think I'm going to go back to right away. I ended up, what did I say on this one? A 7 out of 10, I think? Something like that. But, yeah, it was, again, some parts were more interesting than others. Some performances were definitely more intriguing than others. But it wasn't like one that I would, again, necessarily like love, and go back to and say, oh yeah, we need to see this again anytime soon. One I am very curious about. It's a plan for release and everything. So we'll talk about it more later, I'm sure. Is the long-awaited, always been talked about, long gestating, and finally it's here. Francis Ford Coppola back with Megalopolis. If I said his Megalopolis, there we go. Take two, right? And unfortunately for this one, I think we've seen already there's a lot of, alleged stuff that happened on the set, which has already kind of started some of the anti, film message on it and stuff. There's the reviews on it were not particularly fantastic. Let's see, what did it end up being? 53%. Average rating 4.7 out of 10. It's not a super epic by any means. It's only about 2.25 hours long, but I've just heard a lot of people say it's really crammed. Like, the story is like really, really crammed, and it felt like, in a way, if Coppola had added like an hour to the movie, maybe it would have helped it. But at the same time, just the way it is now, it's maybe a little too condensed or whatever. I still plan on seeing it because if it's Coppola, he hasn't had like a major film that's come out for wide release in years. I mean, we're talking. What is the last one? Arguably since The Rainmaker, because I think Youth Without Youth or whatever, which is the last one of the last ones he did. That one was limited release. So The Rainmaker from the 90s. So you're talking almost 30 years since he's had a major release that gets a wide distribution and stuff. I'm still interested in it. I know there's a lot of people in this cast that are kind of blacklisted now, like Shia LaBeouf, Dustin Hoffman, and Jon Voight. But and I don't know, I guess Coppola maybe is also a little blacklisted-y now with some of the stuff that's come out about him. I don't know. I guess it's... I'm very curious about it, but I just don't know if Oscars are going to touch it because of some of the stuff going on around it. And then one last one I think I'll talk about, and one, again, we'll probably hear about later, is The Seed of the Sacred Fig, which is Muhammad Rasulov. I've heard a couple different pronunciations of that. This is a guy, I think a couple of his other films have gotten some praise in other countries and stuff. He's had a few other contenders here at Cannes in the past few years. This is one I think I've just heard a lot of people talk about it. I would not be shocked if this one shows up at Cannes. I don't believe it's showing at Venice, but it would make sense if it was at Venice. It's one of those that fits. It just seems like one, a lot of people have really liked it. 96% on Rotten Tomatoes, average rating is 8.3 out of 10. I don't know. It's also, I believe, still yet to be picked up, but I just get some good feelings about that one. I wouldn't be shocked if that one lands like that, because every year, of course, we have to try to plan and get that mysterious Best Director nomination correct, usually from an international director. I wouldn't be shocked if Muhammad's name comes up again when we get close to that time, and if he actually lands a couple slots leading up to it. So we'll see. And then I guess really quick we can talk about a couple of the out of competition films, because a few of those obviously go on to releases and stuff. Of these, I guess you had Furiosa come out, pretty much a box office bomb. Just did not really sit well with, because again, the one thing I didn't think of until after the movie's initial numbers started coming out, I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that. Who was asking for a new Mad Max film? Like, what group of people were lining up around the block saying, I want a new Mad Max film? It was like, you had a few people back after Fury Road came out, and after that, it was pretty dead quiet. And Fury Road is one of those, it came out, people liked it, it's not on TV very often or anything. I thought it would be one that would play pretty well on cable and stuff. The original Mad Max movies used to play really well on cable. I just wasn't sure what was going on there with that one, but... Yep, cost a lot of money, didn't make a lot of it back. I just don't. Again, for Oscar contention and stuff. I mean, maybe some of the tech categories it'll still have a shot in, like visual effects, the sound category, stuff like that. But I just don't see it being a big overall winner. Oh, speaking of winners, how about Kevin Costner? I did see this one. I did see Horizon American Saga Chapter 1. And the fact that we still have not heard what the hell's happening with chapters 2, 3, and 4 is a bad sign. Because it was almost a month ago now, or over a month ago. It was actually shortly after I saw the film, because I was a couple weeks late to it, that they came out and said, oh, wait, part 2 is getting pulled. It's not coming out in August anymore. So, yeah, we've yet to see what the plan is for part 2. And supposedly parts 3 and 4, supposedly chapter 3 or whatever, they started shooting on it. So they've got some money and some film sunk into it. But, this first chapter, man, I gotta tell you, this is a strange case for me, because it's a movie. I don't recommend it. I didn't like it. It was really weird, because this is, I think, let me start by saying this. I think this is the ultimate example of what happens when you try to condense a 10-part series, if you will, like a 10-episode series, into a truncated movie version. This is what happens. The pace is a clusterfuck. It's slow at times, then it's too fast, then it's too slow. Characters come in and then they disappear for long stretches of time before we get back to them. This is what would happen if you try to do like a Game of Thrones or like a Breaking Bad or something, and try to do like a 4-hour, or maybe not 4-hour, but 3-hour movie that encapsulates like a season, basically. This is what you would get. It'd be a mess, and this movie is a mess. In particular, the first 20 minutes for me, or so, roughly the first 20 minutes, it was like, at times there was too much happening, at times there was not enough happening. The acting was wooden as fuck. Within 20 minutes, I was miserable. I'm like, I'm ready to go home. I'm like, this is bad. I'm like, this is... I just felt, maybe not dizzy, but I was just like, I just was not sure what was going on. I just couldn't follow it very well. For other stuff that I was kind of looking forward to, like Kevin Costner, seeing him in it, he doesn't show up until like almost an hour into the movie. It almost feels like, it's like, oh, is this the second or maybe third episode by now? It's like, it was just so weird. But what was strange, though, because it's a 3-hour movie, and it's not exactly a quick 3 hours either. As it kind of went, I slowly started to kind of get a little more into it, so that by the time we get to that last, 45 minutes, the last hour or so, I kind of started to say, okay, I guess I'm a little curious about what the plan is here. Like, what's going to happen in Chapter 2? What other characters are we going to get introduced to? How are some of these storylines, these disparate storylines that are spread out, how are they going to converge a little bit? How are we going to pull a Magnolia here and have all these characters come together, if you will? And especially for me, I thought what was really weird is this Chapter 1 ends in a way where it's like, there's just nothing, it's like, it doesn't really build up to anything. The most exciting part of this movie is actually like the last 5 minutes, which is basically just footage cut together from Chapter 2, previewing what Chapter 2 is going to be. And for all we know, that's never going to see the light of day. It's just, again, at this point, with the amount of money that's been sunk into it and everything, I'm just shocked that we haven't heard anything about what is happening with this. Is Netflix going to pick it up? Because that was rumored for a while. Is it going to go straight to HBO Max, which was the original plan, and then they said, nope, this is good enough, we're going to put it in the movie? And then it bombed, and this is definitely lost money. And Kevin Costner himself sunk in some of this money himself, so he's out a few $1 million, I believe. Yeah. And it's like, again, none of these characters really I got into. I remember one thing. There's one of the early scenes is like an attack on the pioneers or whatever in this town. It's called Horizon, I guess. I would hope it's a fictional town. I don't think I'd ever heard of it. But there's an attack scene, and there's a part where this mother and her daughter have to go underneath the house, and they have like a barrel, like a double barrel shotgun or whatever with them. In order for them to breathe, they have to stick the barrel through the ground up into the clear or whatever, and then they have to like breathe through it, and it was just such a it just looked like like some kind of, I hate to say it, some kind of fellatio thing. And the fact that it was a woman and her young daughter who's like, I don't know, like 11, 12 years old, I was just like weirded out by that. I'm like, okay, Kevin, time out. Did you even how much time did you take to look at this before you filmed it? Buddy, it looks like they're doing something else. It was so awkward looking the way it was shot. Maybe it's just the way it was shot or the angle it was at or whatever, but no, it was just strange. It was just really strange. So that part stuck out in my memory. But yeah, again, otherwise, the most exciting part of this was the trailer, if you will, for Chapter 2. It's like, so this one I thought stunk. I was let down by this one. I was hoping it would be something, because, Kevin has done some great stuff in the past, of course, behind and in front of the camera, both. And this is not one of them, no. So I'm still curious to see like where this would go, like where some of these storylines go, but I don't know. I guess rating on that one, I guess I'm like a 3 out of 10. Like, there's some parts like that look good, other parts that don't look good, as far as like budget stuff and like how the cinematography looks and everything. I was just all over the place with it. So, yeah. I don't think I can recommend that one. Okay, otherwise, let's go through here. This is everything that has come out in 2024, what I think of it, or at least what the Oscar chances are. And again, we cover some of this ground at the end of each Oscar season, so some of the stuff we probably talked about before. But yeah, there's not much here in like January, February, March that I don't think we've haven't already talked about in a previous video. But Bob Marley has kind of come and gone. I don't see that one as a huge Oscar player by any means. Where we do find one, though, and this is one I made a point and I haven't gotten to it. I did want to rewatch Dune Part 2 to see if I still didn't like it or not, but no, Dune Part 2 is I think it's a pretty solid bet. This one's going to end up performing about as well, if not ever so slightly better, than the first Dune at the Oscars. I think Best Picture is definitely in play. I still don't understand how Denis didn't get in for the first one, but I think Denis is really, he's got a good shot at landing that Best Director nomination this time around. I think screenplay is in play, the score, costume design, sound category, editing, makeup, cinematography, production design, visual effects. Those were all nominations for the first film. Most, if not all, of those should repeat. I don't necessarily think any one of those is like in danger this time. I don't think we're going to see like any one of those particular categories this year be like super overdone or anything. I don't think there's really, like any major ones I can think of right now where it's like, oh, it's going to be a struggle to see it get in for makeup, for example, or it's going to be a struggle to see this thing make the costume design or production design categories. No, I don't think so. As far as any acting nominations this time around, I'm also going to say no. Timothée might get some buzz, but he's got another film out that we'll get to in a later video that I think he'll be more front of mind for. Yeah, otherwise I don't think anyone else is going to be particularly high up there as far as acting possibilities in it. We mentioned, I think Kung Fu Panda 4 had just opened, I think, when we did the last video there, so it's Kung Fu Panda 4, sequels, unless you're from Pixar, you usually don't land that Oscar nomination. Spider-Man being an exception last year, but that one didn't come through for a win or anything, but I'll name drop that one in case it comes through. Let's see. We have... what else here in March? Not much. Let's go to April here. I'll tell you one I did see. Because I don't think... yeah, I'm not looking at anything... yeah, because aside from Dune, I didn't really see much in the theater there for a while. Then we got to... one I checked out, mostly because the reviews were surprisingly good, and I was, really surprised. I'm like, oh, wait, is this actually going to be good? The First Omen. Does anybody remember this? Yeah. It didn't do particularly well at the box office, but internationally I think it did a little better, because I think it actually made a little bit of money, ever so slight bit of money. I actually like this one. I thought this was good. Not great, not like stand up and cheer good, but for a horror movie, this one was solid. I'm a big fan of the original Omen, the first Omen movie, I should say, not the movie First Omen. The original Omen from '76, I really like it. I think it holds up pretty well. Gregory Peck is excellent in it and everything, and well directed by Richard Donner at the time and stuff. But yeah, this new one, I think is it's pretty good. It's not like there's one big kind of plot hole thing that happens in a third act kind of reveal or twist where it's like, okay, that didn't make much sense. It's like you would think that if something like that was happening or something like that, was going on, they would have discovered it before then. It's like, oh, that's something you would have noticed by then, kind of deal. I don't want to give it away exactly, but yeah. Otherwise, it kind of leads up right into the original Omen, the events of that film and everything. That was kind of cool. And actually, it ends on a note where they almost leave it open for like there to be a second Omen movie, if you will, like a sequel to this particular movie. And by the end, I liked some of these characters enough where I was like, okay, I'm kind of fascinated to see what actually happens here with maybe one or two of the survivors in this film, and everything. And it was also one thing I really liked about it. It was a film that respected the original. It didn't like bow down to it, but it really respected it. And it didn't try to like say, oh, that's, that old movie from 50 years ago now, almost 50 years ago. That was so bad, it's so outdated. Let's do something that's going to knock its socks off. It didn't take that approach, which I really liked as well. So, yeah. That one, I think I ended up going 7 out of 10 on that one as well, or maybe 8. I can't remember where I landed on it, but that's one I would actually recommend if you're a horror fan. I would say that one's actually not bad. Again, what else did I see even here in April? I think I saw one more. I'll get to it here in a second. Yeah, Challengers, that's it. Luca Guadagnino is one of those directors. It's like when he has something out, I'm curious about it, and I might go see it. Like I didn't see the Bones and All movie. That just the subject matter just again made my stomach turn. So I'm like, I don't think I could watch that one. But no, Challengers. This one it kind of harkened back to some of those like '90s sexual thrillers, if you will. Kind of, not exactly like or some of the '80s too, like a Fatal Attraction and stuff. It didn't quite go that far into like a thriller vibe. This one was more like a romantic drama, but it was kind of the first time in a while I can describe a film as actually kind of sexy. Like part of the appeal was just seeing the characters on screen and like seeing them with minimal clothing on and stuff. It's like that was kind of part of the appeal. And for that part, I was like, okay, yeah, it's first time we've seen that in a while, and yeah, all right. But anyway, that being said, I still think the overall story though was decent. I kind of liked it. In particular, the whole kind of middle section where we get into I can't remember the character's name, but Zendaya's whole stretch where she was an athlete and she was doing really well in college, and then accident happens, and then she's basically her career is over. So she kind of puts all her energy into coaching her one of her old friends who becomes her husband, and then an old flame of hers comes back, and that whole now they rematch in this kind of minor league event or whatever for tennis. Yeah, I thought that was it's a decent enough story and everything. In particular, there was a really, really great little callback that happens in the final matchup that really got me like, not that the movie was like trending down or anything, but it was like, I kind of felt like the movie, because it's almost, it's a little over 2 hours. I felt like it kind of ran out of steam at some points, in particular, like when it got to the third act, I'm like, okay, we can kind of get to the tennis part now. And it's like, I wasn't as invested in like the storyline between what was going to happen between these ex-lovers and stuff. That part didn't fascinate me as much. But still, the tennis stuff I thought was pretty decent, and everything there. That was fine. But, yeah, I just felt like once we got to that final tennis bit, and then we did introduce one of those callback things that makes you go, oh, okay. Then I got into it, and how it kind of ended I thought was actually kind of a decent ending, too. So, this one, I guess I don't really have much else to add here. I don't think it's going to play for any Oscar consideration or anything, but entertaining flick. I don't know if it's one that's going to be remembered widely, or anything, but I don't know. What would I get? I think I gave it a 7 out of 10 as well. Let's see. Then we get into the summer season, and I didn't see much. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, I did see. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I remember saying that last time. Um, and this one, I kind of had a weird reaction to this one too, because I thought the first act didn't work for me. The first act I really didn't like. It was. I just didn't really care because it's like you introduce, it's basically a few hundred years after the events of War for the Planet of the Apes, and then we get introduced to these new apes, and none of them in particular held a candle to Caesar. You just didn't care for these new characters as much as you did Caesar, and that was a problem for me, I thought. But once the movie kind of started going, and then we got into the second and third act, and the new story kind of went. As it went, I was like, okay, now I started getting into it more, and by the end, I actually thought, okay, this is a decent follow up to the previous trilogy, and it leaves room for more installments, for sure. It also, I think, surprisingly, it's on a note here where it kind of feels like we're possibly going to see a little more. I guess I'm trying to say, without giving it away, like exactly what it is, but. You know how in the original, because I also really love the original 70s series, most of it, Battle of the Planet of the Apes can suck a dick. But the first four of the original movies are pretty solid. The second one, the second one is a little weird. I remember I described the other day I was describing to somebody because they were like, I gave away a spoiler or something, and I was like, and they're like, oh, well, I wanted to watch that. I'm like, you wanted to watch a almost 55-year-old movie? Yeah, right. It's that's a sequel to Planet of the Apes? Yeah, right. But I basically described what happens, for those of you who have seen it, what happens in the last 5 minutes of the movie. Like, the last 5 minutes of that movie is so fucking chaotic and weird. It's like, I described it, and they're like, oh, shit, I don't want to see that. Yeah. There's some nice callbacks to the original series here, though. I like those parts. And it feels like we're getting to a spot in this series where, yeah, that stuff is still technically, I guess, canon. It's just we're in some of that unexplored territory in between some of the stretches of the film and stuff. The effects for this are still looking pretty good. I would say visual effects is probably the one and only category this is going to be considered for at the Oscars. Otherwise, I mean, it's solid enough flick. I gave this one an 8 out of 10. I thought by the end, I really did think that it got a lot better once we got to the ending. But the first act, I was like really not enjoying it. And I'm like, uh-oh, this is not good. And then it did get a lot better. I think it got a lot more confident as it went. So, yeah. Let's keep going here. Next one we talked about Furiosa. Possibly the Garfield movie in contention for animated feature, but I didn't see it, and I guess it got a few critics liked it. Most everyone else was meh on it. I guess the next big one's going to be Inside Out 2. This one I actually didn't get to. I didn't see it in theater here until actually like a couple weeks ago now. And I'll tell you, it was kind of strange because I went in, it was like, early August. I'm like, this movie's been out for almost 2 months. So I figured, when I went in, I would be one of the few people there. It was like me, and there was actually quite a few families there still. So and just to get off topic for just a second here, I know there's been some concerns here over the summer, especially when we got into like May, when we got a bunch, like it was like movie after movie just kept like falling short of expectations and stuff. Box office wise, there was a lot of concerns like, the theaters are going to go out of business. COVID started this, and now it's just declining even more. Take a note from Inside Out 2. This movie is probably going to end its run close to $1.65 billion, if not a little more. And the reason why it's able to make that much money, not just because it's a sequel, not just because it's Pixar, not just because of that, part of the reason it's keeping the audiences there, it's not available on Disney Plus yet. It's not on streaming yet. So for you folks out there, wake up call. People will stick in the theaters. We're seeing it right now with Twisters, too, which I haven't seen, but a couple relatives of mine saw it, and I think they liked it. Twisters is holding pretty well week after week at the box office here. And that one is on streaming, I believe, now. But if you keep your movie in theaters longer, people will go to see it. Like in this case, it was almost 2 full months after it had come out. Audiences were still, packing in the seats there when I was seeing it. So, again, if you keep the movie in theaters, people will go to see it. It's not a big mystery here. I think that's part of the reason why it was so successful. Obviously critics really liked it. It is a sequel and everything. It was really hyped up. It was the first kind of more or less big movie of the summer and everything outside, if you don't count like Planet of the Apes and stuff. At least the first one that like a lot of family people, a lot of family audiences would go to. You had the If movie, but that one did okay. I guess critics weren't really fans of this one. This one, yeah, did have some good critical reviews. I'll tell you what, and the first Inside Out is one, I don't like go back to it consistently or anything, but I still really like that first one. The second one, I don't think it's quite as good, and I had actually, again, quite a few family members see this one, and a lot of them were really disappointed in this one. They really did not like it. I kind of loved it. I think this is, of the movies I've seen this year, this, I think, goes straight to the top. I think this is the best film of the year so far, for me at least. Is it going to get like a Best Picture nomination? Maybe. It made a lot of money. Back in the day, that used to be a kind of a caveat. You had to make some money to be a Best Picture nominee. Usually, you had some outliers once in a while. But obviously, for as far as Pixar goes, this is their first like big hit in a while. What was their last? Toy Story 4 probably was the last one, because obviously you had like Onward and stuff that came out right as the pandemic started hitting in the US and stuff. Elemental last year. Elemental made some money. It, again, really relied on its international markets. And that's part of the reason why I think Inside Out 2, even though it did make a lot of money here in the States, its worldwide numbers were almost $1 billion on its own now, I think. It's really close. Let me see. My old friend, the numbers here, the website, the numbers. 985 million just outside of the U.S. Yeah, so international audiences tend to really go out and see Pixar films. Anyhow, but this, I thought it was a really nice follow-up to the first film. It really, I'll tell you, I didn't see it, but there was the one movie, what was it called? Breaking Red? No. What was the one with the red panda bear? Turning Red, okay. I didn't see that one. As a guy, when I heard what some of these so-called subject matter was about, I kind of got turned off. I'm like, I don't want to see a movie about that. About, teenage girls getting their first, and all that stuff. And everything, and I get it's without having seen the film. I've heard from a lot of people that said, I've heard both actually. I've heard some people say, nope, it's straight up. That's exactly how they explain it. But then I've heard other people say, nope, it's a metaphor thing. It's like if you think about it, it's what it stands for and stuff. Okay, I guess one of those two has to be right because they're kind of opposites. But anyhow, without having seen that one. There was a very subtle hint here to like that particular thing, and then also the main character Riley going through puberty and stuff that I thought was kind of a nice little clever thing and everything, without it going overboard and without it being like a huge like deal. Like we have to take a time out and explain to the 4-year-olds in the audience what a period is, for example. It's like, no, we don't. That feels a little weird to me, at least. Without being too conservative about it or whatever. But still, it's like, I don't know if I would have necessarily been as excited to see it if, that was what was happening. But, again, a lot of that stuff is more subtle, and it's not exactly front of mind. But I'll tell you what, really, the difference, though, between this and the first film. With the first film, if you cut out the stuff with the emotions and the feelings and all that, isn't that what they call them, the emotions? Yeah, emotions, yeah. I was like, I thought they had like a title for them in the movie, like a group or whatever. But yeah, it is the emotions in the head and stuff. If you cut that stuff out of the first film, you don't really have much of a story. It would almost work better as a Pixar short about a girl who moves to a new town. She's, gets homesick and wants to run away. That would it would be like a 10-minute Pixar short. With this one, if you cut out the emotions here, you get a probably closer to an hour-long story, though. You get a good story through and through. That's not just, only for a short. No, like, I actually cared about what the main character, Riley, what she was going through here. Like, again, cut out the emotions. I think you've still got a really good story here. Whereas if you cut out the emotions from the first film, it doesn't work as well. Again, it would probably again work better as a Pixar short, but no, this time it's like, yeah, that was good. And the emotions together again were fun. The new emotions were pretty fun. Um, the anxiety character, I was actually kind of shocked they turned anxiety into more of a villain than they did. I was because going into it and stuff, it's like at first it's like, okay, I get it, I get what they're going for here. It's good, a little anxiety is fine, and this is where the kind of the final message is. Without, I don't know. I think you could have predicted it. I don't think it's a major spoiler to say it, but at the end of the day, it's okay to have a little anxiety. You can't let it drive you though. And I personally, I've known some people that they are driven by anxiety, and they can have some issues with it and stuff. But in particular, there's a scene toward the third act that happens that I thought was handled really, really well, and it was actually like a really powerful scene in the movie and everything. It doesn't quite get to the emotional highs of that first film when she finally does have that breakdown scene where she, finally kind of lets all her sadness out, as sadness takes over the control panel and stuff. It's a memorable scene in the first film, but yeah. It's not quite that emotional high, because that's, the first time I saw that, I was like, okay, that was kind of tough to watch, without tearing up and everything. But on rewatches, it kind of got me, and just listening to the score isolated and stuff, it got me. But yeah, this, I would think it would have a close effect as well. I'm gonna look here. Did Giacchino? No, he did not come back for the score. I'm actually shocked. This felt like it was him, but no, it was Andrea Dotzman did the score here. Possible player? I don't know. Some of these sequels, especially animated films lately, just generally just really struggle getting into those categories. The Disney ones did very, very well in the 90s there, of course, and 80s, but late 80s with, Little Mermaid and stuff, but oh well. Yeah, so this one I really, really liked. It's funny. It's not as funny as the first. I always think the joke in the first one that is freaking hysterical from the first Inside Out is it's toward the very end when Riley's walking down the highway and she bumps into a guy, and then we go into the teenage boy or tween boy's emotion. It's just everybody running around crazy, and they're like running with their hair on fire, and the thing just says girl, girl, girl. It's just one of the most perfect jokes in a movie I've seen in like years, and this one doesn't have a joke on that level of comedy where I just absolutely was hysterically laughing or whatever, but there's some funny jokes in this movie for sure. And and good little one-liners about, brain activity and stuff, like brain shower, how that actually works in the brain and stuff. It's an actual thunderstorm and stuff. It's just cute little things like that I thought were good. What was it, brain chasm or whatever that joke was? That joke I thought landed really well too. Or sarcasm, that's what it was. An actual chasm, and it's a sarcasm. Yeah, that I laughed a lot at that. I thought that was funny. So yeah, I do like this one a lot. I will rewatch this one, and this is a 9 out of 10, close to a 10 out of 10. I think again, just I don't know. I guess I can't really think of like a major issue with it. I don't know. Maybe in retrospect, on a second viewing, I might bump it up a little bit more in the score, but maybe it will be a 10 out of 10. But for now, I'm sticking with like a really, really high 9 out of 10. Let's see what else. I did not see The Bike Riders when that came out. It was around Father's Day or something, so I tried to see it when but at the same time, it's like Kinds of Kindness was out at the same time, and I felt that one wasn't going to stick around as much, so I saw that one instead. And Bike Riders was gone by the time I tried to get to that one the following week. So, so I didn't see that one. But again, I'm just really, even though this was one that had some tout to it last year and then it got pushed back because of the actors' strike and everything, the fact that this came out in mid-June, it's going to be really tough for that one to stick around in the Oscar conversation. I just don't sense it's going to. Next up, we've got A Quiet Place Day One. I did see this one. I like the first two Quiet Place movies quite a bit. This third one has some moments to it that I thought were good. It's an 8 out of 10 for me overall. Lupita's character that we kind of followed through the movie, she was pretty good. And in particular, there's a really nice scene in the beginning where we get the... it's during, before everything kind of goes to shit and the aliens show up. There's like a little marionette show that they go to, a little like puppet show thing. That was cool, and there's actually like there's some really nice moments in there. Otherwise, I don't think this one had the because we're 3 movies in by this point. I don't think it quite had the it didn't quite have the thrill ride to it that at least the first one had. The first one, I remember seeing that in the theater. I jumped at every like scare moment because I was so immersed in that one. That one I really liked. This one, I think there was maybe one jump scare moment that got me, but otherwise, I don't know. I feel like the characters in this they're solid, but they're not as good as like the family that we follow in the first couple films. Krasinski and Emily Blunt and their kids and everything. I'm not quite as attached to these characters this time, since we do know it is kind of a spin-off in a way. It's a little tougher to get into it. There's a couple parts where I'm like, okay, that's just dumb. Yeah, so overall, it's an 8 out of 10. It's a lower 8 out of 10 for me. I don't quite have as much to say about this one. Again, some good moments here and there. Some of those quieter moments where it's like the characters are actually able to find a little bit of peace is nice. And they're nice, break up from the action beats and the scary beats and everything. But overall, it's okay. I wouldn't call it like a great movie, but it's a little bit of a step down from the first two, but still a solid enough flick and everything. Next up for possible contenders here, Despicable Me 4, which I think, again, has a shot at animated feature. We'll see. I think there's a couple more coming out this year that could knock it off the pedestal, though, for one of those possible slots. The next one, I didn't plan on seeing this one, but then it came out and it just absolutely blew the socks off of, predictions and stuff, because I thought this would open to like 5 million or something. It opened to like 30 million, or whatever it was, 22 million, yeah. Longlegs. And I'll tell you, this movie, I'll tell you what, Longlegs is a movie, I went into it, I didn't know much about it. I'd seen like a couple previews of it, like from basically like YouTube trailers, basically like 15-second ads or whatever. This is one that stuck with me. This is one that really, like, when I walked out of it, I'm like, okay, that was just fucking weird. And I didn't really have much of a reaction other than that. I was just like, this is just weird. I said, I don't know if I really love it that much. And in the days after, and in the weeks now after I've seen the movie, part of this movie is sticking with me, man. And some of it is just downright disturbing as far as some of the material here. And what's also really shocking to me, Nicolas Cage in this movie, who is basically, he's a supporting role in it. He'd basically be up for supporting actor. What's really weird to me, I have not seen a large outcry yet for him to get nominated for this, but I think he is phenomenal in this. This is, and not that I've seen all of his latest films, because, like Pig he did a few years ago, and a lot of people said he probably could have been nominated for that. I think he got a Critics' Choice nomination or something. Some of his more recent films and stuff, some people have said, hey, he's actually, kind of, coming back to form a little bit and giving some really interesting performances. This is just weird. This is just him going all out. There's a couple, I don't want to give away everything here, but there's a couple scenes where he's singing, and it is fucking disturbing as all hell. His physical appearance in the movie is pretty whack, for a phrase. There's some weird stuff here. Micah Monroe, who actually almost 10 years ago now had It Follows come out, and that kind of launched her career. She's kind of monotone in this. I didn't really love her performance. The movie, again, without giving too much away, it kind of explains away that a little bit, but it doesn't explain one other element to it. Again, that's something I think I do really, really want to rewatch this one. It was something that came out, and actually shortly after it came out, a few of the family members, we went on a family vacation and stuff. We do every year, anyways. But and I remember my brother and his girlfriend in particular were like, they were like really pissed at me when I saw the movie, because they're like, we were going to see this together next week. And I was like, I just, usually when we're on vacation like that, it's a lot of day drinking, and stuff. There's a lot of, it's a relaxing thing. It's like, it's not usually a time where we go, 15 minutes out of our way to go find a theater and go watch a movie. Like we've done it before. Like when the Harry Potter movies were coming out when we were growing up, we would go to see them every year up there and stuff. Funny enough, one of my first memories, I think, going up to vacation and seeing a movie there was, this back in the day now, this is dating me, Austin Powers and Goldmember. My dad took me to see that, and he had his brother and future sister-in-law they went with us, so it was the four of us there. I'll tell you what, I think I've told this story before, but to this day, the hardest I've ever heard an audience laugh in a theater was with that movie. I don't know if it had just come out or whatever, but Austin Powers and Goldmember, there's the joke, Dr. Evil and them, they're on the submarine that's shaped like him underwater and stuff, and he says, "How do you like my underground sub? Long and hard," and yeah, so on and so forth. That joke. When that punchline landed, the audience roared with laughter. Still to this day, the hardest I have ever heard an audience laugh in a movie theater was that movie, and we went to see it up in the Minnesota theater there. I just remember that. Random memory that popped up. But anyways, we were going to try to see it there. And unfortunately, though, what I feared, because it's a smaller theater, it's only like 2 or 3 screens versus all these multiplexes going on now. I was like, I don't know if it's going to play up there. So when we got up there, yep, sure enough, it wasn't playing yet. So, and maybe it just never played because again, it's only a 3-screen theater. And you had like Deadpool had just come out and stuff like that. So anyhow, but yeah, and anyways, with this, I'm actually a little shocked though. Getting back to Nicolas Cage, I'm a little shocked because all these horror fans, and I've communicated with a few of them over the years here on the channel here. They really, when they've got a candidate that could possibly get nominated, like biggest one I can think of course, is Toni Collette here a couple of years ago for Hereditary. Everybody and their dog was saying she should get nominated for this, and they were pissed when she started falling out of the rankings and stuff. I am shocked that we're not hearing that same crowd say, "What about Nicolas Cage? What about Nicolas Cage? What about Nicolas Cage?" I've just not heard a peep about him. And this is the one time I'd actually be kind of on board for it, where I'd be like, I can actually kind of see it. This is a past winner. And Toni Collette was a past nominee, so it wasn't like totally out of nowhere. It's a movie that made some money. It made, the horror fans really dug it, and it's one that they've highly praised and everything, most of them. It makes sense to me, and yet I have not heard a peep about it. I would, again, I don't know if it's going to happen, but I would not be totally shocked if we land on like Golden Globes morning or something, which Golden Globes have honored Nicolas Cage a couple times. I wouldn't be totally shocked. Now they've got 6 solid nominees in their acting categories. What if he does land supporting actor? What if he shocks us and lands it there? It is Neon. Neon has pulled off some wonders before. I wouldn't be shocked. I would not be totally shocked. But yeah, he just goes to the extreme in this movie, and it's a fun extreme and everything. I thought the movie also, pacing-wise, I thought was pretty good. Really a nice harkening back to like the Silence of the Lambs, 7 era 90s thrillers and stuff. That was really fun for me to go back and watch and everything. Yeah, I think it's one I definitely want to watch again, and I'll watch it now with the family and stuff. They'll want to see, a lot of them have wanted to see it. So, yeah, I was just checking how long we've been going on here because we're down to about a month left, so we're almost getting closer at least. But anyhow, as far as any other potential contention for this film, I don't think so. I don't think it would land as much as it would actually be kind of cool, like to land a screenplay nod or something like that. I mean, that's really about the only other place I can see this one getting any support. It's just, again, it's not the usual for the Academy. It's not their usual cup of tea. But 8 out of 10. It's one of those when I came out of the theater, I was like a 6 or maybe a 7 out of 10 on. It's like I enjoy it, and I was freaked out by Nicolas Cage's performance. It's one of those rare times I'm actually sitting down and saying, this is actually an unsettling performance. Like, it's actually one that gets under your skin, and you leave and you're uncomfortable. That, and there's one other, I won't even name the actress because it's such a kind of, it's a twist in the film and everything. But the particular actress, her performance also was bone-chilling. Just so creepy with everything that happened with her. Even from the first time that the character is introduced, without even like fully grasping who this character is, already we can tell something's off, and it just accelerates from there. And it is just, yeah, her as well. I would say I wouldn't be shocked if we actually see a couple, maybe even independent sites, or even possibly even a couple regional awards when we get to like New York Film Critics Circle or whatever. I wouldn't be shocked if we see some honorable mentions for some of those performances as well. So, yeah. Okay, next up, I've not seen this one. I don't think it's playing wide yet, but it's actually leading Gold Derby at the moment for Best Picture, Sing Sing. A24 film, so we have to take it seriously. Coleman Domingo stars in this. I believe it's based on a play or musical, something like that. I think it's, it doesn't say. if it's a player musical, but 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. Average rating is 8.7 out of 10. It's a critical darling right now. Yeah, from what I've heard, Coleman Domingo is really really good in it. You've got a couple kind of up and coming actors. I think a lot of them are actually from the theater scene. I don't know if any of them are like maybe this one. I'm gonna see. Oh no, okay. I was like, are a couple of these people like Tony nominees or something? But I don't think so. Anyhow. I don't know. We'll see. It feels like a critical darling. It's coming out in the middle of July. Kind of getting a little bit of a wider release now here in late August. We'll have to see if it can make the distance because we've seen films like Everything Everywhere All at Once, land very early and just stick through. We've seen that happen, but I don't know. I'm just not particularly thinking that this is going to be the one that wins it. I just don't get that sense right now. After I see the movie eventually, then okay, maybe I'll change my mind, but we'll see. We name dropped it here. Twisters, visual effects, maybe the sound category. That's going to be about it. Haven't seen that one. I think this is the last one I saw in theaters was Deadpool and Wolverine. So I kind of hinted there. Yeah, MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, kind of feels like it's maybe getting back on track now with Deadpool. It's a big, big moneymaker. Last time we saw a movie from Marvel kind of make this big a dough was either you go back to Doctor Strange or, of course, Spider-Man. Both those were pretty successful. I think this one is... it's one, as I was watching it, I was really, really, really loving it, and I was really, really digging it. But I'll tell you one problem, though. One problem I have, and it's nothing to do with the film personally, but one thing we gotta fucking do. We gotta fucking take care of this. This is bullshit. If you're a major publication, don't print stories involving spoilers the week the movie comes out, immediately. Don't do that. Do not fucking do that. That's stupid ass when you do that. It's so stupid. Because in this case, I was planning on seeing the movie as soon as I could, but unfortunately... I think I mentioned I went on family vacation right as this movie was opening. The Friday that it opened, we were leaving. So I didn't get to see it until almost 2 full weeks later. By that point, everywhere you look, there's spoilers everywhere. Pretty much all the cameos for me were basically ruined. And not because I went out and tried to find them. No, I like to go into the movies not knowing all the surprises and stuff. No, in particular, where I get my movie news is IMDb movie news or whatever. It's basically what's the word I'm looking for here? But they throw together all the articles basically. A conglomeration. That's the word I'm looking for. It's basically all your varieties and your colliders and your deadlines and all these the major publications. When they write something, they kind of compile them there. You can just kind of scroll through and find the ones you want. Don't be so fucking stupid as to put an actual spoiler for an actor or a character that pops up in the movie in your headline, and then in the very first paragraph below say, spoilers ahead. Duh, dumbass. You've already spoiled it by that point, you fucking dipshit. What the fuck is wrong with you? So yeah, I already knew basically almost all the cameos. I basically knew everything just because they were fucking dipshit dumb enough to publish these things less than a week after the movie was out. So I'm there on vacation trying to read just basic movie news, hey, what's going on? Because, Comic-Con was going on at the same time and stuff. So I'm like, okay, what's going on at Comic-Con? Oh, you mean to tell me that blank is in the movie? Fuck you. I wanted to see that in the theater. Dumbasses. Oh, God, I hate that shit. Hate that shit when that happens. They did, similar thing happened with, when Avengers Endgame came out, less than a week. I want to say definitely less than a week after that film came out. There was already articles about, speaking with, I don't know, I'm trying to think, who was in the movie that was, a cameo or something that was supposed to be a surprise. I don't know, Robert Redford or something, he shows up in that. Or, talking with Benedict Cumberbatch on his return to Doctor Strange or whatever. It's yeah, they posted it, the Wednesday or the Tuesday after the movie came out. It's okay, now, in that case, I can maybe forgive that one a bit more, because number one, the movie had, true, it had only been out for a little bit. It had already made almost $2 billion by that point. It was making crazy money. Everybody and their dog had seen it at least once, almost by that point, virtually. You would think, obviously not true, but not literally, but still, it was like I was still a little like, okay, I've seen it, so I'm not worried, but like I get where some people would be pissed. Yeah, I was not happy when I'm just looking through basic movie news and then reading, about blank, an actor that shows up in this. I'm like, fuck you. I wanted to see that in the theater and be surprised by it. Now I don't have that choice. It's like, oh, I was so disappointed. Yeah, major publication sites, you need to get your shit fixed. Please, don't do that. Anyhow, so by the time the movie comes around and it's like, okay, I'm finally ready to see it, yeah, I kind of knew who was going to pop up, who was not going to pop up, and so on and so forth. And I was so let down, man. I was so let down. About the only thing that didn't get spoiled for me was the very beginning, which is it was a good joke at least, so I didn't have that spoiled for me. But anyways, yeah, it's still a good movie. I mean, don't get me wrong, but seeing it, yeah, I was really into it, and of course when the cameos or, appearances, the characters or, whatever would pop up, or some of the in-jokes from previous, movie news related stuff and everything, those were all fun and everything. But still, I think, again, I would have enjoyed it more without that. But even without that, I still say the movie itself is good, and the cameos are fun and everything. And some of the scenes between Wolverine and Deadpool where they're like actually talking about their character stuff, surprisingly well acted. Especially Hugh Jackman, I want to say, is actually really, really good in this. And of course, you could argue he's given better performances as the Logan character before. But this one arguably is one of his best, if not his best. The Logan movie, I remember being a little down on that. I'm still a little down on that one compared to a lot of fans. A lot of fans say that's like one of the maybe 5 or 10 best comic book films ever made. I am not near in that class. I think it's a solid movie. It's just nowhere near as good as that. It would probably, like, if I were, because I actually had to do this for one of the movie sites I used to write for. If I wasn't counting a lot of the sequels and stuff, it would probably be like, it ended up being number 10 for my list of comic book films of the decade. But there's a few sequels I would definitely put ahead of it, because I could only put one movie from a franchise in the list when I was publishing it, just the publisher's demands and stuff. But with all the sequels in, I would probably rank it like 15 or 16. Like, I thought it was way down on the list, compared to a few other ones. Like, I would say Captain America Winter Soldier all day, every day over that one. I don't know, just as an example. But anyhow, getting back to this, though, I mean, some of those scenes were really, really good. In particular, I think it's, again, you can probably find it on YouTube and see a pirated version of it or whatever. But there's a scene, and again, this isn't a major spoiler, but there's a scene where he gets to, Logan just kind of lays Wade out, basically. Like, they're both in a car, and they're, like, stopped for a second and stuff. And he just lays into him. And it's so well written, and it's so punchy, and it was so good. I just sat back and I was just like, this is amazing. I'm like, this is really great. And then there's a little fight scene that happens there. A great song comes on. I was just having a blast during some of this stuff. The thing that kind of holds me back a little bit from totally loving this, though, the pacing is a little off. At 2 hours and 8 minutes, it feels like it's 2 hours and 15 or 2:20. It does feel a little long in the tooth sometimes. In particular, my particular problem is there's this kind of set piece that happens toward the end, and it's a fun set piece, and it's like a lot of stuff happens in it, and it feels like it should be a finale. And we get through it, and then we realize, and then it's like, oh yeah, we forgot the actual main villain is still trying to do their stuff and everything. It's like, oh. So then there's that extra ending tacked on and everything, and I was like, I didn't care as much for that. And the whole excuse for like why this is happening and stuff, it's okay, it's not why we're there. We're there to see Wolverine and Deadpool team up and everything. And again, those parts work, and some of the fight choreography in this is really, really good. Again, some of those cameos are really, really fun. In particular, there's a really good fake out. One of the early cameos is a really, really good fake out. Really nice. I'll just leave it at that. That one was really, really nice. And there's some funny jokes in this. Like, there's the whole, I can't remember the whole joke of it, but it's, Honest Timmy from Saskatchewan who gives blowjobs or something. It was something like that. It was so random and funny. I really thought this was funny. And yeah, I don't know how much it's going to mean for like the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because this definitely feels like kind of a separate entity. It's like a nice little thing, but it's like it opens up the possibility of, okay, what if one of these characters or a variant, different version of this character does show up in the Marvel Universe, you know, and everything. It's fun. It's fun and everything. I wouldn't, you know, again, I wouldn't go out of my way to say like this is like, you know, how the blueprint for the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is going to go. But it's this is a good, you know, not to say that it was totally down or anything, but like after, you know, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania came out, not everybody was excited about that. The Marvels was a flop. Most everyone was happy with Guardians of the Galaxy. I in particular really liked Guardians Volume 3 last year, but it felt like Marvel was kind of down. And this was a decent little shot in the arm that they almost kind of needed. Because, you know, we've still got, like, the new Captain America coming out next year that looks pretty decent. You've got, in particular, I'm thinking of, what else is, what's still to come out here? Fantastic Four. I really like the cast for Fantastic Four. Like, literally everybody that's in it is, you know, I'm really pumped to see in their roles and stuff, particularly Pedro Pascal, because, of course, you had to get Pedro Pascal. That's awesome. I love that. And of course, what they're gonna do, I think we can spoil this. RDJ's return to Marvel with playing Doctor Doom. I don't know how that's gonna go. Already, you know, I've already heard like from 8 or 9 different sources. Everybody's at different opinions. They're like, this is pandering. They're desperate at this point. And I've heard some people say, look, this is really really cool. And by the way, when they did announce it at Comic-Con, because again I was on vacation, so I was reading it like a couple hours later and stuff. Man, when I first saw that, it was weird because they were talking about, oh, it's going to be Avengers Doomsday and I didn't read that. I think the first thing I read, and then I went to bed or whatever was that night, was like the Russo brothers were basically going to come back and direct the next 2 Avengers film and stuff. And I was like, okay, cool. And I kind of refreshed a couple times and I didn't see anything else. I'm like, okay, that's it. And then I wake up the next morning and I read Robert Downey Jr. is Doctor Doom. I'm like, what? So I come out and I actually found a video from Comic-Con of them taking the mask off, and it's him. So I started, because he was one of the last people him and probably Daniel Day-Lewis were the 2 last people I would have guessed for playing that role. That was crazy. Anyhow, with that though, I was like, I remember I brought it up to my family members, because a couple of them are into Marvel stuff and everything. And I was like, okay, I said, they just cast Doctor Doom, guess who it is? And one of them started shouting, they started shouting out weird names and stuff. And my brother actually said, Gyllenhaal, Jake Gyllenhaal. And I was like, you're on the right track. And everybody gave up, and I showed him, and he was like, duh. That's always his reaction to stuff when he's not sure. He's like, duh. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know how that's going to go over, but I'm very, I'm still going to have a little bit of curiosity around Marvel stuff and everything. So, yep. Okay, anything else I've seen? I don't think so. I think we're all caught up. I haven't seen it yet. It just came out this last weekend here. But Alien Romulus, I do want to see. I'll probably see it between shooting this video and the next one. I'll probably have seen it by then. So I don't know. We might catch up with that one later. Otherwise, the only other one I was going to talk about, I don't think it's going to be an Oscar player at all. And by the way, for Deadpool Wolverine, I really don't think it's going to land anything at the Oscars. It might land maybe a couple nominations at the Golden Globes in the comedy musical categories. The first Deadpool did that as well. I don't know, maybe. I don't see Hugh Jackman making a run at supporting actor or anything like that. I just don't buy that at all. But yeah. But I'll tell you one movie that's making a boatload of money. It Ends With Us, which I hadn't heard of the author until actually shortly before the film came out, and then somebody's like, "Oh yeah, she's super popular," and I was like, "Oh okay," and then I because it was a name I'd like heard in passing, but I didn't know who it was, and then I was like, "Oh okay," because she's written how many other ones? And this is part of a series, I guess. Or no, there's actually 2. Okay, maybe there's gonna be more. But yeah, because they started naming off like some of these titles. I'm like, okay, well, I think I've heard a couple people talk about this book or that book or whatever. But yeah, she's actually what's her? I got it pulled up here. Colleen Hoover is the author there. Evidently, yeah, she's got a pretty popular following and everything. So Yeah, this one, I really don't think anybody's going to go for it. I mean, it sounds like it's, a better version. I mean, and not that the subject, I don't think the subject matter is anywhere close, but some people have compared it to a little bit of like the 50 Shades movies where it's like, okay, it's a popular book. They just adapted it to just kind of shove it into the theaters and stuff. I think there was it sounds like there was a little bit more care put into this one because I think it has to do with like abuse and like marital abuse and stuff like that. I think is kind of the general subject matter without being overly familiar with the film. But it sounds like there was a little bit more care put into it and everything, but I don't know. Not a movie for me, not one I would jump off the screen to see. So yeah, just noticed it's making money. So I don't see it like making a run anywhere except maybe the People's Choice Awards or something. I just don't see it being an Oscar player, but oh well. Okay. Yeah, I think that's everything for now. So again, that's all the stuff that I've either seen this year or that has come out that possibly has a couple play at some Oscar nominations. But yeah, I think again the big takeaways so far, at least, are Sing Sing for now. I'm really going to be curious. I think that one again, it's going to be a critical darling. It's going to land quite a few critical prizes and stuff. Like New York Film Critics Circle, I can definitely see going for that one. LA Film Critics would definitely go for that one, just from what we've seen so far and everything. Unless months down the road we get something else. Otherwise, Dune Part 2. Dune Part 2 will land a bunch of nominations. That could actually lead nominations Oscar morning. I wouldn't be shocked. Because, yeah, for the rest of the scope for what's coming out and everything here, I'm trying to think what else, like, we know has a shot. Like, at this point last year, we kind of knew Oppenheimer had a shot at landing most nominations, and it did, Oscar morning. Otherwise, I'm trying to, outside of Dune Part 2, it's like maybe Joker, the new Joker movie, could land most nominations. Unless we go with an outside contender here that maybe could play in a bunch of categories, but no, I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think of ones that'll get like some of those tech categories as well as some top categories, and right now I'm not sure. Yeah, I just don't see any that are gonna like have that kind of mix between the techs and the top categories. But all right, that's all I got for now. So again, we'll be back. I'll shoot the next video in a few days, and we'll talk about movies that are coming out. Kind of basically a fall preview. Anything from September to December, and we'll talk about what's coming out. The ones that are slated, at least. Again, we'll get a much better preview, I think, after a lot of the fall film festivals have come out, because by then, some of the mystery will be gone as far as, okay, is this one picked up? Is this one slated? So on and so forth. We'll get some of those answers next time as well, but later on. I should say later on, not next time. Next time we're going to talk about movies in September through December, so that's the plan.